Hey guys, welcome back. So today on Modern Masters Auto, we have a SL63, a amazing AMG, a supercar of convertibles. I mean, this is a hardtop convertible with a 6.3 liter V8, and we are going to make it better. We're going to fix all of the known M156 issues, cams, tappets, head bolts, all that stuff. And then we're going to complement this car with a VRP supercharger. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, so we have the SL63 here. Look at it, just awesome. As you can tell, it is one of the older M156 engines as it has metal valve covers. So with the metal valve covers, we'll probably find some other things in there that are outdated that we will need to upgrade to make sure this thing is going to be bulletproof, handle boost, and just live up to the power that the Great White Buffalo puts down with its VRP supercharger. So this car is amazing. It's going to rock. But in this video, we are simply dropping the engine and getting as far as we can, tearing it down. And then later videos, we will be doing the VRP supercharger, building this engine, all those good things. So stay tuned. All right, Rusty. Where do we start to remove the M156 out of the SL63? This one's a little different than any of the other ones we've done. So where do you want to start?
Draining all the stuff out of it.
Draining all the stuff out of it. So we're not doing anything different.
No.
We're not doing anything different. All right. So we're going to drain all of the stuff out of it.
That's correct.
And then what?
Probably eat. Possibly while it's draining.
Oh, lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, so drain, lunch, and then drop the engine.
Yep, just like all of them.
Cool. So guys, you're in store for another dismantling video of an M156 coming out of the car. The correct way. A lot of you guys need to watch this because we're getting some of these cars shipped in with the engines out and people are building decks. We have had a car literally where another shop built a wooden structure to hold the car up. Instead of just dropping the subframe, pulling the motor off of it, and then putting the subframe back in the car, they built a deck. They were nice enough to use the nice hex screws that like go under the wood, and they used that composite decking boards on top. So put a really nice patio out there in front of that E63. But yeah, watch our videos so you can learn how to appropriately pull these engines, work on it, and then put it back in. Very important. That is a lot of undershields, my friend.
There's a lot of undershields.
How's it looking under here?
Got some leakage from the wrong stuff.
Oh yeah, we knew about that. That is why you don't use the wrong silicone.
Here, check this out.
And that's an oversized bolt on this transpan. So I wonder if the thing's in it.
We're gonna find out. Other than that though, it's pretty solid. Got some oil leaking going on right here.
Yeah, I think you said that was from the valve cover gaskets when you initially did the courtesy check. Got some duct tape on the boot. Pretty clean though. Mm-hmm. Pretty clean. Remember, this has the ABC pump, like the CLs up there. It has these ABC suspension. It's a pain in the ass, but rides amazing.
So I have the oil draining, but once I get the fluids draining, I think I'm gonna have to put it back down and relieve the pressure out of the ABC system so I can get these control arms apart. But other than that, nothing different than all the other ones we've done.
Let's see what happens here. That bolt is not correct.
I think this is the aftermarket pan.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
It almost got me with the red fluid, and then I thought, oh,
yeah.
it's that year.
Yep.
What year is this? Like a 07, 08?
Something like that. Real early.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. We're just watching through a mirror.
Fluid inception.
What? Yeah, fluid inception. Whoa.
Okay, so I got those crossbars that were underneath the car out of there. They were a pain, but I did get them out. I went ahead and evacuated the air conditioning. And now I'm going to take off all the covers and try to do as much as possible up top, so I only have to put the vehicle back up in the air one time before I drop the engine. We'll start off by taking these off. Always be careful when you pop these off of here. Don't just go ripping it up because you'll end up cracking it across the sides here. So I'll take that off. These snorkels out of here. And I always crack up when I see people labeling and numbering the cool packs, and it's even more hilarious when they're wrong. So it's not even the right order. They're flipped. So there's literally no point in doing that, but it is funny. So number 1 is labeled as 5. That's just hilarious. And I haven't done a SL63 engine pull before, so I'm looking to see where the harness runs, and unfortunately it looks like it runs inside, and I really hope not. I'm hoping it's under the cowl here somewhere, because it's gonna be really hard to get underneath the dash with this car on the lift. And our AC is empty, so I can go ahead and disconnect these lines. So the ECU is in the front fuse box here, and this harness runs the whole way down through here, so that's gonna be fun to fish out of there, those 2 giant connectors. But I guess it's still better than being inside the car. But I'm gonna go ahead and try and fish that out of there, just so that's out of the way. It's really the only thing I see being time consuming. Everything else is pretty straightforward. I'm trying to have the engine ready to pull by tomorrow morning, so I think if I just take out these little side bolts here, there's a few here and there crossed here, and you can see the ones over there. This whole top piece should slide right out of there and then give me access to the harness down there. All right, so I have all the bolts out of here. I've been kind of prying it back and forth, getting everything loose. There is some rubber sealant on every one of these. I kind of had to like pry apart, and it did take some time, but just be careful. You don't want to mess up any of the felt or anything. But I think it is just about ready to lift up out of here. Make sure careful none of that junk falls down there in the intake there. Get that out of the way. And now we have plenty of room to get this connector out for our engine harness. So I just need a trim panel tool to pop that loose. And luckily I have this thing with me at almost all times. Check this thing out. So you just keep it in your pocket or wherever. I keep it in my top keyboard drawer, and ka-chow. And you just pop in. It's perfect, all the little trim panels, especially on Mercedes. The Mercedes ones have really, really thin trim panel fastener for some reason, and this thing gets right in there. So perfect little tool. Got that one and the bottom one. So now we're going to lay the harness right on top, so that way we can leave all of the little connectors onto the engine. That's the only main electric component we have to unplug. I think it would be a starter wire or something down underneath the car, and maybe the transmission connector, but if you just unhook this main plug from the connector, it saves you a lot of time from taking all those little things apart just to get the engine out of there. So that's free. I think while I'm back here, I will unhook the hose going to the heater core, and I'll start undoing the air conditioning and a couple of hoses here and there. But my main goal anytime I do an engine is I try to drain the fluids. I unhook everything that there is to unhook up top, and then that way I don't have to constantly go up and down with the lift. So I'm gonna do everything I can possibly do while we're up here. I'll put it up in the air, disconnect everything, and then we can just drop the engine while the vehicle is up in the air. And one of the only fluids I have not drained is for the suspension and power steering. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get my vacuum extractor going so I can at least unhook this hose here. And I'm gonna suck this dry so I don't have as big of a mess whenever I disconnect the steering rack from underneath. All right, so as expected, it's an SL, and it's going to be a pain in the butt. All of these hydraulic lines, I was trying to find the best way to get them out. I was hoping that I could just, unbolt this connection here, take that line out that runs along the frame rail here, but that goes up to the pump, and I can't even get to that thing without taking the pump out. So the best option for me so far is looking like I had to take out this supply line over here that comes from the pump. And it's way up here where this valve block is. So I'm gonna take that line off there, and then I took the line off of the rack up in here, and that should free us up as far as power steering and the suspension lines go. And then I just need to undo a couple coolant hoses down here and the drive shaft and exhaust, and I think I should be ready to drop it once I get these control arms out of the way. Let's see if I can get this mess taken care of first. All right, now we have this out of the way, I'll go ahead and unbolt these oil cooler hoses. And I'm gonna let this drain out the whole way before I make a giant mess with this one. All right, so it looks like my next step while that's draining out of there is to get this exhaust out of the way. So of course, being an SL, there's no point in the center of the exhaust for anything to come in half or separate, so I have to take everything off back to the tailpipes, all in one piece. So I'll go ahead and get these brackets out of the way and unbolt the converters from the manifolds and get someone to help me drop this whole thing down to the ground. Get your safety glasses on.
Safety glasses, check. I got the exhaust, you get that. Now grab your end. See that? So I got the balls.
Oh, I see the balls. All right, so with the exhaust out of the way, it will give you access to the main fuse box here. So there was a plastic cover and a heat shield around that, but it was kind of difficult to remove on camera, so I got that out of the way. But these are your main pre-fuses in here. So these big flat fuses in there. So if you ever have a situation in your SL where you're not getting any power to anything, check these. The fuses aren't really right here, they do run inside the car, but I do have to take off these two big power wires here from the outside in order to take the engine out. I actually just had a SL55, I ran into this just last week where a guy had no power to anything, and I took the interior out to access that fuse block on the inside, and that 80 amp main flat fuse in there was blown. So I'll put that in there and fire it right up. While we're here, we'll pop one of these guys off there. All right, so that's disconnected. I'm gonna check around for a few other things. Just disconnect the trans connector while we're over here. And I'll take a peek at everything else. I think I still have this bottom trans cooler line I gotta get off, this coolant hose, and maybe a few other odds and ends here and there. So I'm gonna work on that, and then I think the next step would be getting our drive shaft off, and then getting this shift linkage out of here. And don't forget about this guy, the little steering shaft. But I'm gonna knock those few things out, and then time to get the suspension out. I checked to see if there was a function on the scan tool to release the pressure in the struts, and there was not. So I'm assuming it's going to be okay whenever I unbolt that, and it's not going to break my face, but we'll see. Only time will tell. All right, so I've started to take the suspension off, got both tie rods out of the way on both sides, and now that my brain is functioning, I remember all I have to do is undo that bleeder screw on either side, and that will relieve the pressure from the front struts. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm not sure which car I saw, but I have relieved the pressure on the scan tool before. Maybe I'm thinking of air suspension, I don't know. I'm not really thinking the clearest today. I think it's my allergies or I'm just tired or something. But as always, of course, that made a giant freaking mess for no reason. But that's what pigments are for. It's also what Daniel's for sometimes. Or John, when he decides to work here for a day or two until he makes us angry. But all right, I'm going to let the pressure out of the other side. And then hopefully I can just knock that strut out of there, get these control arms swung out of the way, and this engine will be one step closer to being on the ground. So we're going to take that off. And to get these out, they're really, really tight in there. So I have this pickle fork attachment for my air hammer. One of these here. I'm gonna try my best not to mess up the boot on the back of here, but sometimes it just happens. So we're just gonna air hammer this thing off right here until it pops loose. There we go. And yeah, we're gonna need a new boot here, but that's just part of the job, I guess. And we're already getting new dust covers for the struts, so I'll just get a boot replacement for down there. But there really wasn't any way of avoiding that. So now I can get the strut pulled out of the way, and I'll be able to unbolt this control arm, swing it out of the way, as well as the front one. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it one more time. I think that's it, other than the drive shaft and the trans bracket back here, as well as the linkage. But pretty sure once I get these control arms out of the way, everything up front is clear. So let me work on the suspension for a minute and then get the drive shaft. All right, so I got some blocks of wood here, a little bit of a gap between the trans pan and the table, but that's okay. That's gonna drop down once we take this bracket off of here. And then I have another block of wood up here on the cross member, and even another one just kind of close the gap here in the front. So none of these are on like the engine oil pans, anything like that. I don't want to risk denting those in, as that is just underneath the subframe there. So now I'm going to loosen the trans mount brace right there, and we have this ground wire that runs right here. So leave that off, put my nut back there so I don't lose it. And I already went ahead and disconnected the transmission linkage here and put the transmission in neutral so I can spin the drive shaft to get all of those out. So first I'm going to just slowly start to loosen these bolts, and that will allow the transmission to hang down until it touches this block of wood. I don't want it to just fall all the way all at once. So I'll take off both end bolts here, and I'll just slowly loosen these down. Now we can unbolt our mount. We can just leave all of this together. And I like to take this back bracket off, just makes it a lot easier to get a wrench up in here to undo the drive shaft. So let me get the socket for that. All right, so with that out of the way, we have plenty of room to get in there with an impact and a wrench and take some drive shaft bolts out. And if we get lucky, we can just pry out of there, just like that. Sometimes you need a little help with a hammer, but I get lucky today. And I should be able to lower the engine out of there with that just pushed back like so. And now I get to take out our subframe bolts. All right, and just like with taking that mount off the back, I like to slowly loosen the subframe bolts just to make sure everything's coming down easily and that the table's gonna handle the weight, because these things are heavy. All right, looks like it's gonna handle it. I'm gonna go grab Joey just to give me a hand and give me a second eye on lowering this thing down. Craig's not here. He's actually in urgent care this morning, has another infection. So I doubt he's gonna make it back for the end of this video. But I could definitely use a second set of eyes lowering this thing down. so the engine is out, and just take a look at how clean this thing is. Hardly any oil leaks. There's a little bit here from me spilling some oil, lowering the power steering fluid down. But I think I had a valve cover gasket leak right around here somewhere. But overall, this thing is in really good shape. But now that we have the engine out, we can start upgrading it to all of the VRP goodies it's going to get. It's going to get the VRP Whipple supercharger. It's going to get the VRP stage 2 cams. It's getting the hardened cam plates. And it is also getting long tubes. So long tubes are very hard to come by for an SL, but we got a hold of them. Plenty of other things. He's getting a full 85 kit, and I think a billet crank pulley. So plenty of work to do. I'm excited to get it torn apart, but that's going to be it for today. All right, guys, that's it for this week's video. If you enjoyed this and you're excited like I am to see how this SL63 handles the VRP supercharger, give us a big thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe. And please leave a comment about my very sick friend, Craig, down in the comments.
Yeah, I don't know. I forgot to hit it again. Testing 1, 2, testing 3, 4. So as good as my voice is gonna get today. 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, thanks to Craig's balls, we got the exhaust system out of the way. And it looks like this guy has, in the parking lot, has all balls and no brains. So we'll see how that goes.